Hi there, and welcome along to the Gersnet Podcast, the totally free and independent Rangers show made by fans for fans, where all of our content is always absolutely free. And as well as the podcast here at Gersnet, if you head over to our website at www.gersnet.co.uk, you can see all the great content that we have there for free, including lots of friendly discussion forums, plenty of articles, social media, match previews and reviews, and a really good history archive as well. So like I say, if you've not checked that out before, please do head over to the website at gersnet.co.uk. The podcast, we go out live every Sunday at 9:30 p.m. We're here for a wee preview. It's just gone 9 p.m. on Wednesday, the 16th of March. So if you're joining us live on the Gersnet YouTube stream, then thank you very much for giving up your time this evening. It's great to have you with us. Please do leave us your questions, your comments, your thoughts in the chat box there. And we'll get to as many of those as we possibly can. I'm joined by my friend, my colleague, and the most learned man I know about all things European football, Alex Anderson. Alex, we didn't have a chance to preview last week's first leg against Red Star. Unfortunately, I was struck by the COVID after 2 years of avoiding it. So we didn't have a show, and I'm sure you have sort of 2 episodes worth of knowledge about Red Star that you've painstakingly researched. You can probably actually pronounce it in the proper Serbian name, I'm willing to bet.
Absolutely. Étoile Rouge in French. Estrella Roja in Spanish. I don't know if it's Cervena or Cervena Zvezda Belgrade in your Serbo-Croat. I don't know what the German is. I'm thinking kind of Die Rotentwinkel or something like that. I don't really know, but I don't know how they pronounce it. No, mate. And by the way, we need to stop. We need to get rid of this idea that I'm any kind of expert in Europe. I got my ass handed to me by a 10-year-old at a funeral on Monday. His dad saying, "Hey, Alec knows everything. But ask him at any stadium. He knows. He knows any team in the world." The wee guy looks at me and goes, "Cadiz." From Spain, aye. I'm like, Estadio Cadizio? He's just like, you total fraud. You know, he's just looking right through me like, no, mate, you're just all mouth. You don't know a thing. And I don't. But yeah, we'll rustle something together about Red Star Belgrade. Don't worry about that.
I'm sure we will. I'm sure. So you're saying you've never been to the Estadio Nuevo Mirandilla?
You looked that up. How quickly did you just look that up? See, that's the thing. I can't work these buttons the way you can. You know what I mean? I kind of keep up with the kids. You know.
The thing is, right? If a 10-year-old knows that 10-year-old, I'm sure he's a lovely chap, but he's not doing normal 10-year-old things, is he?
Well, it wasn't my age. I mean, to be fair, I was just memorising all the winners of European trophies at that age. You know, so but I missed my chance to get a pal there. You know, so. No respect for me whatsoever now.
No respect at all. No, I suppose I suppose it's not too embarrassing to not know the stadium of Cadiz opened in 1955 on the 3rd of September with a capacity of 20,724. We're not here to talk about Cadiz. We're here to talk about Red Star or Crvena Zvezda. I've been practicing that for a few hours now. Actually, I think that's as good as we're going to get.
Smooth.
It was, I think, last week to come away from that first leg. After blitzing through Dortmund, you would kind of foresee us to then stumble at the same stage that we've stumbled at in the past 2 seasons against a club that really there's no reason to stumble against. Obviously, Red Star have a monumental history in the game of European football. One of those kind of top elite clubs of maybe a couple of decades ago, maybe not so much in the past couple of decades. But we come away with a 3-0 victory to take over to Belgrade. The players have obviously travelled over there this afternoon. And it was an absolutely marvellous result for all of us as fans. I guess the problem that we have here is that we're now going to Belgrade, to the Maracana Stadium, with a 3-0 lead. Away goals don't count. So that obviously puts its own sort of spin on the tie. How would you set up here? Do you set up knowing we can score goals? We've scored 3 goals against them already. We scored 6 goals over the course of 2 games against Borussia Dortmund. Do we set up to go and score and build on that lead, or do we seek to protect what we have and get away with, keeping it as tight as we can at the back?
Yeah, I think that's the $64,000 question, Ross. I think for us to protect our lead, we should try to increase it. If you know what I mean. I think that's how we play. The idea of us sitting back deliberately, you're going to be forced to sit back at some point. We hope not too long in the game, but we're going to be forced to sit back at some point, so you're going to have to defend. I think if it's maybe the alteration of maybe having Lundstrom starting off as a third centre half, and having Glenn Kamara coming back and being a sitting midfielder, while we kind of explore opportunities, or we're trying to kind of ride out any early anticipated storm. I don't know. I have a funny feeling Gio might just kind of go for it. You look at what happened last Thursday, and I think that's a great thing. It kind of sums up the general nervousness and confusion amongst the Rangers support people I'm talking to on Twitter. It's like, we've won 3-0, and yet, I mean, they had the ball in our net. I know it was offside, but the ball in our net after like 3 minutes, less than 3 minutes. They've had the ball in the net again, and they've had a penalty, and yet we're 2-0 up after a quarter of an hour. Second half, watching the game again, the first leg from Ibrox, watching it again as we all probably did last Thursday, watching it back in the telly, I was actually surprised by just how much we controlled the second half. Them rattling the bar, that shot from Kanga, that's kind of confused the issue. They had the ball in the net again 5 minutes from the end. So that's when we kind of confused this, but we actually controlled the game a lot more, and probably should have at least one more goal out of Connor Goldson. And yet, still, I think it's the similarities between the teams, the similarities between the countries, the similarities between the leagues. I think it's almost kind of symbiotic. Even the managers. Gio's played the World Cup final. He's captained his country in the World Cup final. And Dejan Stankovic, he's played for 3 different countries in the World Cup finals. He's got his own kind of special record there. They both won the Champions League as players. Ryan Jack yesterday is getting announced as back in the Scotland squad. The last game Ryan Jack played for Scotland was in a stadium tomorrow night, in the old Maracana, the old Red Star Stadium. And the game went to penalties. Scotland putting Serbia out of, and that just felt like a kind of horrible omen, because I think for a club of Rangers standing in financial terms in Europe, in the modern European football kind of landscape, we don't get to quarterfinals without getting put through the mill in each game. And I feel as if there's almost got to be a time in every tie, a kind of sustained period in every tie, where we're thinking this could be us going out. It's almost like defies logic that we should be getting through this early. I'm talking even going back to 2007, 2008. Touching wood and all that, talking about reaching a European final, but the last time we got to a quarter final, never mind the fact we eventually got to the final, we did that by spreading out the kind of doubt throughout the whole I mean, it was 0-0s, we're getting through in away goals, we're getting through in penalties. The only time we pummeled anybody, came close to pummeling anybody in the first leg of that the UEFA Cup run, that followed us falling out the Champions League, was when we beat Werder Bremen. Tim Wies's having a nightmare in goals for Werder Bremen at Ibrox. We beat them 2-0, and we took the pummeling of a lifetime in the second leg. I've never seen anything like it. Required the best save I've ever seen from Alan McGregor to keep us in that tie. It's almost like you've got to earn it at some point. Against Borussia Dortmund, we won 4-2 over there. Similar situation. We got into a second leg with a massive advantage, but no one was kidding themselves because Dortmund are such a great team. We go a goal up at Ibrox against them. It looks all over, and then they bossed the rest of the first half. They scored 2 goals. I made the whole half-time period thinking one more goal from them, and I don't know how we're going to come back. And we come back magnificently. What we did in that second half at Ibrox compares to anything I've done in Europe in my life. But I just feel as if we haven't. The clubs are so closely related to each other in their performances this season, and even through the ages, Red Star and Rangers. It just feels. I'm not saying we should be losing 3-0 tomorrow because we won 3-0 in the first leg, but I feel as if there's going to be a moment where we're under the cosh. Maybe we go a couple of goals down. I don't know. I don't want to sound depressing, but I'm steeling myself for that, because make no mistake, for me, Ross, this is the turning point of the season. I think we're all talking about, the possibilities of going to Seville and what have you. And I don't think that's getting too carried away. It's only natural. But for me to get into a stage of a tournament with the suffix final, on the end of it, after where we've been recently, it's beyond belief in terms of the pride we'll all feel and what it will do for the prestige of the club. I don't think we even appreciate it just at this moment. So I'm just hoping that me keeping my feet in the ground and being fully focused will transmit to the players doing the same, and it's got nothing to do with it.
No, I don't think they're watching this in their hotel.
They're not.
Belgrade, are they?
We'll fool them.
Nah, absolutely. Look, it's interesting, isn't it? I think you've hit up on something really interesting there. There is this tactical dilemma. How do we set up? Do we, and the sort of consensus in the chat here seems to be get the early goal, settle the nerves. And one goal probably kills this tie realistically, because it's very, very difficult to see them. If we get one, they need to score 4 to take it to extra time. I think, if we do get to that situation where Red Star get the first goal, maybe get a second goal, what Dortmund showed me was that in Europe, Gio has multiple game plans. I mean, he's the antithesis of Mark Warburton. He has a plan B, he has a plan C. And we saw that with how he changed the game against Dortmund. I remember that in the second leg where they score their second goal and we drop to a back 5. And I'm thinking, why the hell are we've already conceded twice. Why are we dropping even deeper? But I'm clearly a tactical idiot, because it allowed the freedom down the wings, and it absolutely killed the game. So I can take some comfort from that if Red Star do get the first, maybe even a second goal tomorrow, Gio will have a plan. Gio will have a different tactical setup, and the players will be drilled in plan A, plan B, plan C, in how to change and affect that game, whether we need to go and get that first goal and settle the game, kill the tie, whether we need to become fully defensive and protect what we have. I feel comfortable. I think we've seen different models of flexibility with the likes of John Lundstrom dropping into centre half, with the likes of, you can bring Bassi into centre back and put Barisic on the left hand side. James Sands is a very versatile utility type player. Glenn Kamara he's been utilised quite attacking in the last few games. He can obviously, we've seen him the way that he can screen the defence and break up play as well. So it feels like we have options. And I think that from the games against Dortmund, that's what gives me a lot of confidence going into tomorrow. I think it's worth trying to sort of predict how Red Star are going to attack this as well. Obviously, as you say, they had the ball in the net 3 times. They had a penalty as well. They clearly are a team that has potent attacking threats. So how do you see them approaching this game, and where do you see those main threats?
I'm hoping the main threats, I think, is the 2 Ks, your Kanga and Kata. You have to, anybody out there, have to forgive me, I haven't actually checked in their kind of suspensions, although I know the guy, was it Srnic, who was wearing number 55 for them. He was a kind of defensive midfielder on the right hand side. He's quite easy to notice with a big 55 on his back. He should have been, I think he was going to get suspended for this game if he copped a yellow card, and he should have within 5 minutes. He threw a kind of double-footed tackle on Big Balogun after he'd overrun the ball, and then he was the guy that gives away the penalty by tapping Ryan Kent on the shin. So I think Kata and Kanga's the kind of number 8 Gabonese international. He was wily as anything. Angry wee man, bit nasty when he wants to be, but also pinged that one off the bar in the second half from a ridiculous kind of length. There's a tremendous shot in the unknown for hitting them from distance. They've scored a few this season in Europe this season from distance. The 2 that Katai put in the net in the first half, one's coming from, I think it was Kanga, hitting the ball just kind of more or less to the middle of our box, just going over the top of us. The other one was a more kind of, I think that was coming from the fullback. I think it was coming from the left back kind of area. The other one was a bit closer to home, down a kind of left hand side. They worked a nice move up one inside left channel. And I know obviously offside is off. There's been a lot of talk about this recently. We're very sensitive to pundits or whatever saying, oh, they were just offside. Well, offside is offside. They're not goals. But when they're playing at home, the big difference is they're not going to make their runs that yard quicker. I don't think Red Star Belgrade were in any way intimidated by the crowd at Ibrox last week. I think we were boosted by it. I think the Rangers players rose to the crowd. After they had got us going, really, it was a good atmosphere, but then Rangers getting the penalty and carrying on, even though Red Star were playing so well so early. I think that really got the crowd going as well. You get the early goals and then you build on it. It was a fantastic atmosphere in the end up. But I don't think it bothered them. I'm not sure that the atmosphere can bother us tomorrow night. I don't want to be a racist myself by generalising about Eastern Europeans, but you could, I don't know if there's going to be racism in the stands. I know they're not reneging on their sponsorship with Gazprom, so there's a bit of pro-Russian stuff going on. There's a bit of kind of silliness in the Eastern Bloc, but there's a bit of silliness at Ibrox, but we're used to this kind of stuff coming from the stand. So it's got the track around it, the Maracana, and I think that hopefully we'll stop it. And I don't know, that'll sort of be too intimidating. And I don't know, I'm quite heartened by the fact that Red Star have had a week to think they beat us 3-0. They've had a week to think, no matter what we did, they got in behind us and scored. You know what I mean? They gave it their best and we still won 3-0. And in the middle of that week, they've gone top of their own league. They were 2 points behind Red Star. They must have been beating them behind Partizan, their old rivals. Partizan drew at the weekend. Red Star won, and they've gone top of the table, getting in towards the closing part of the season. I'm hoping maybe if we can, as you say, get an early goal or at least kind of frustrate them for the first 20 minutes or so, they might be a kind of token. They might kind of think to themselves, let's just concentrate on the domestic glory. It's a bit of a misnomer. They're talking about Red Star. They haven't got past this stage of the Europa League, but they lost the UEFA Cup final narrowly in 1979 to Borussia Mönchengladbach. It's the UEFA Cup's the forerunner of this tournament. It's the same thing. But it's real to say that they haven't been past a European. They haven't been to a European quarter final since. I think they've been past the last 16. Same thing since the glory days of 1991. The following season, I think they were in the Champions League kind of the practice when they had the group stage without it officially being the Champions League yet. It was still the European Cup. They were practicing the group stage. They got into that kind of quarter-final group stage, didn't make the final, and that's it. Since they actually lifted the European Cup, they've not been able to get to a quarter-final really. So it's massive for them, but I'm hoping they might feel it's a step too far. And for every kind of doubt they may have put in their mind with their ability to get in behind us and shoot from distance last week, I think corners, they're marking at corners, and we've become kind of set pieces are us, haven't we?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. But we have threats there. And it works. We have, whether it's the simple ball into a Goldson or a Hollander, or it's the near post ball to a Joe Aribo that cuts it back across. We have threats there, and you've really quite nicely sort of echoed the sentiment in the chat here about their set pieces. Whether it's them defending ours or them sort of attacking their own, their delivery into the box, I felt from dead ball situations was generally poor, with possibly the exception of that chance that they had straight after the was it a disallowed?
The penalty was saved.
The penalty that was saved. That's it.
Yeah.
Their set pieces, both offensively and defensively, were poor. And that's some of our strengths.
I think their marking at corner seems to be zonal, and they've basically got 6 guys on top of the keeper, 6 outfield players in their 6-yard box. One of them is at the front post. They've got another 3 just outside the 6-yard box, between the 6-yard line and the penalty box, so the penalty spot. And they've got, I think it's Kanga goes over towards the corner taker. It's just absolute. I mean, I know it's a total Alan Shearer type kind of truism, just stating the obvious that if it's zonal marking, you get a run on them, But that's not actually how Balogun scored. Balogun actually had to check back with his header last Thursday. But he's kind of there's 3 central defenders on him, so to speak, but they're not on him because they're marking the area. They're not marking Balogun, and he's been deadly in the air against Brøndby and for Brøndby in Europe this season. So you've got a chance there for goals. Like even against Dundee, I mean, there's no better set piece than the penalty. When we're getting them left, right, and centre, as because it's not just a Scottish conspiracy anymore; it's a world conspiracy. So we've always got a penalty. But it's really heartened me to see he's actually working. I mean, last Thursday you just because they're so deep in their own box at corners for Rangers. You saw with the second goal we scored, we just worked that short ball to get a better angle, and you can, you've got Alfie just hanging about at the edge of the box. You don't even have to be outside the box to get space. It's just kind of penalty spot distance. The only thing I would say to counter that is they slightly concern me how they. It's just as well the delivery's poor because they mob Alan McGregor at corners the other way.
Yeah,
they obviously have. I've got the memo about him being bad at coming out for crosses. But so you've got to weigh that against the fact you've got a team who's got a reputation for shooting from distance, and there's no better shot stopper in the game than Alan McGregor, than the fact that they are basically putting about 6 guys in our 6-yard box if they get a corner. In the heated atmosphere of the Maracana, that could end up causing a bit of panic, a bit of confusion. But I don't even know. I don't really know if you've seen any figures about ticket sales or whatever. It's not going to be Dundee to Dens in the Scottish Cup, mind you. Jesus Christ.
Oh, it's absolutely appalling. It's shameful. Shameful.
I mean, a few years ago, I would have felt sorry for Dundee with that kind of, but I'm kind of done feeling sorry for anybody else in Scottish football these days, especially them with their email folder. But I mean, it was pathetic.
I know that obviously we're getting a wee bit sidetracked, and that this was obviously addressed on the main show on Sunday night. But I have my sort of personal opinion on this is it would be lovely for them to give us 3 stands, right? Like Livingston do. Everyone makes as much money as they want. They don't have to do that. Right, and I'm fully supportive of the fact it's their right to give us. They have a minimum amount that they can give. They can give us a minimum amount if they want to. They're doing themselves out of money, but that's their choice. But the fans of clubs like Dundee cannot complain about a lack of resource to go and spend on players or spend on infrastructure if they're not willing to come out and back their team. And I understand, like the circumstances around that club at the moment are appalling. Right, it's mismanaged into the ground. The managerial appointment was an embarrassment. Frankly, it's tragic, and I know that there was some talk of protests and not buying tickets and not buying merchandise on the back of that, so maybe that's had an effect. But geez, it looked appalling. I can only hope that the TV camera was on top of a stand that was full of Dundee fans. I suspect it wasn't.
The old Derry. No, I saw it. I saw a couple of times as there was angles coming. I think maybe half time when they're talking to Kevin Thompson and Neil McCann, you could see that that wasn't any busier than the rest of the place. It's supposed to be 1,200 Dundee fans. It's obviously not on the season ticket, and they've overpriced the ticket, the Scottish Cup. But there was worries that was going to be the case for us with the Red Star game, and you've got basically 50,000 people there. It wasn't an empty seat to be seen. But this is us. We're playing 2 teams in the trot now for the next 2 games that we've just beaten 3-0. And it's going to be a very different situation going back to Dundee on Sunday, 12 o'clock kickoff. We've been to Serbia this time, and it'll all be the season ticket holders. I'd imagine they'll be back. They won't have to pay extra to get into this game, so it'll be a tastier crowd. I don't want to get too ahead of myself criticising Dundee when we've got to play them again so quickly. But yeah, that was embarrassing. But I don't know, Red Star tomorrow, maybe the talk of the stadium being full, and it's going to be, I don't know if the Red Star fans are maybe kind of half and half. They feel they're out, and they're not really going to get behind the team in the numbers that the manager's threatening. So, listen, just to get to the point, I think that down was it Piccini, the Italian right back who played kind of 3/4 of the game at Ibrox, he's gettable. He's so gettable. I think not just Ryan Kent, but Calvin Bassey had him on toast. The big centre half, number 25. I mean, Alfredo was wearing him like a pelt. He just owned him all night. I think there's just so much. There's so much encouragement that I'm deliberately being a bit miserable and trying to find negatives because I'm baseline quite confident about this game. Yeah. But I think for me it's like Mike as played by Robert De Niro in The Deer Hunter, and he goes, this is this. We have got to focus on this game. We can't be focused on the league, 3 games against Celtic. People are already, April's going to be packed because we'll have that quarter final of the Europa League and the semi-finals then go into May. The Europa League, no, we're not there yet. This is getting to the quarterfinals. I think is enough of an achievement in itself, a historic achievement. But tomorrow night for me is a kind of cup final in and of itself, just to do this. And I just hope the players I say are as focused as us. I think we overload on the right hand side by getting Kamara pushed up again, this new role he's got. Yeah. You get Joe Aribo, he was rested in Sunday. You get him a bit fresher back on the ball with Tav just doing that Tav thing that he does, that just amazing slaloming, just going forward, the blue cafu. He's amazing. Yeah. I get carried away with myself. I'm seeing a kind of high scoring game, and hopefully Rangers are, we're getting 2 or 3 goals.
Look, I'm sure that if we get one is enough. They are not putting 4 or 5 goals past us. I just don't see it. Look, I think you're absolutely right. The options that we have in terms of Ryan Kent and Calvin Bassett down the left hand side have been dynamic in Europe so far this season. I mean, the German press are still talking about Ryan Kent and his performances against Dortmund. The manager of Red Star has identified Kent and Morelos as danger men, and whether that's because of the pace of Kent running with the ball and not just the pace, but the trickery of Kent running with the ball, or the hold-up play of Alfredo Morelos, which again in Europe has been superb. There's obviously a lot of reports that he's been pre-selected for the next Colombia squad. He wants to catch that manager's eye. This is the stage on which to do that. Joe Aribo, as you mentioned, not been on form the second half of the season, but if there was one player in this squad that you looked at and thought he needs a rest, it's Joe Aribo. He's looked tired more than anything else, and he gets his rest at the weekend and comes back fresh for this game, ideally. And Glenn Kamara, it's an interesting one because he is playing a new role under the new manager. Not really a new manager anymore, I suppose, but he seems to be playing it very, very adeptly, very naturally in a way. So that kind of puts the spotlight on one or two other positions of debate, let's say. One player that came in against Dundee at the weekend was Aaron Ramsey. Now, almost every show that we do, we're talking about the Aaron Ramsey loan signing and whether it was a good idea or not. He's had 2 starts and he's not getting enough game time. He's frankly, clearly not fit enough. But he's coming against Dundee. If he's not seen 90 minutes, he's definitely seen at least 80 minutes against Dundee. I think he played a long time. John Lundstrom dropped out against Dundee. Does Aaron Ramsey deserve a start? Is he ready for a start? Is this the right place for Ramsey to? He's played, his 2 starts have been cup games against Annan and Dundee. It's a very different encounter against Red Star. Would you be throwing him in, or would you go with the tried and tested? John Lundstrom's been playing well under Gio, in my opinion.
No, I would go exactly with last Thursday's lineup. Last Thursday starting 11. I might, as you say, you might be changing exactly where Glenn Kamara's playing to let Lundstrom go into. Maybe we'll start with him as a third centre half, and that's a beautiful thing about this system. It lets Glenn Kamara come back in and sit. I think Glenn Kamara Gio's determined that he knows he's a great player and he's going to get a tune out of him, but I think he got too much of a tune out of him when he first arrived. I think the very first game against Sparta Prague, and that's the thing, Gio he's only lost 1 game, but he did lose it 3-0. A kind of stadium that's known for a bit of an atmosphere as well. But he's done amazingly in Europe. He's got a fantastic record in Europe. We've not had a bad performance in Europe, never made a bad result under Gio. But I think with Glenn Kamara, he came in and he did that thing with him. He made him the single pivot, I think, against Sparta Prague, and he did the same again the following Sunday in his first league game against Livingston. And Glenn Kamara just rose to the occasion, was fantastic. But I think you could see it eventually taking a toll on him. He didn't have that Ryan Jack or Steve Davis sitting next to him that let him be the kind of cool, calm, collected, always get plenty of time. Glenn Kamara, and you could see him physically, literally stretching himself at times. He was in danger of getting a kind of hyperextension injury or something. I think Gio basically knackered Glenn Kamara, and he's brought him back in. And I just said as a kind of stupid thing to say when I was talking about him against Aberdeen, and that kind of grim win we had against Aberdeen recently. I was saying, he was doing Glenn Kamara, he was doing the Joe Aribo things. Glenn Kamara was, he set up the goal, by beating 2 guys down the inside left channel and cutting it back for the Tav header. The Roof then puts away at the back post. And in the first half, our best chance was Aberdeen hitting their own post after Glenn Kamara had hit the byline and pulled it back, causing the kind of havoc. And I think Gio's looked at that and he's just said, right, I've got you there. Almost in the Glenn Kamara role. It's almost like he's sitting behind Alfredo when he started last Thursday. But it's not as clear cut as that. It's more about being a bit of a kind of wrecking ball in a very kind of physical Red Star defence. They've got the fella, is it Sangola? I don't know if it's his name. He's very physical. The guy that was trying to pull James Tavernier up after that kind of stramash at the corner they had after the penalty. He was trying to pull Tav up off the deck after a bit of an injury, and it caused it. I think he got a booking for that. But he's a big physical guy, and I think Glenn Kamara was up there kind of causing havoc amongst that kind of physical back line and defensive mids that they had. So it was great, a real kind of spoiling tactic, but he's always there. He can come back and he can sit in a double pivot. If we have to get a bit more defensive as well, he can sit alongside Ryan Jack. It's like a role he's used to playing. So that's really good. I don't think Ramsey deserves to start. I don't think Ramsey has earned it. I don't think he's ready to either, probably. Dundee are awful. Again, touching wood, saying that with Sunday in mind. But that's a different story altogether from whether we should have signed him or not. I was really excited about it at the time. Came on the show really excited when he signed him, and I think at a baseline, the signing of Aaron Ramsey is a success in the attention that it brings to Rangers. You know, I know this. We're paying so much money for him and what have you. Well, yeah, the idea is we're paying for that. We're paying 2.5 million or whatever it is in his wages. Or I don't know what the figures are. But we're trying to get 30 to 40 million from qualifying directly for next season's Champions League. And I'd always said, same with Diallo, we're going to have to use these players if this season remains as busy as it is. We're going to have to use all of them. Gio seems to know how to use his squad now. We're getting a good squad. You know, Sands coming in as well, doing a job. You know, Alec Lowry's able to come on at the right time when he can exploit stuff. And I think Ramsey, just having signed a player of his stature, brings so much attention, world attention to Rangers. There's another guy in Madrid just now, a Welsh international, a good mate of Aaron Ramsey's, who doesn't even make the bench. So, you know, you never know. Ross Wilson has a word. You know, you never know. We can attract other players apart from anything else through Aaron Ramsey. But he enjoyed himself so much on Sunday, and I enjoyed watching him, and he just fitted in there. James Tavernier, Ryan Jack, he's in there making the little 1-2s with them. He knows where to go. He's just shown his absolute class. They know how to play with him. He knows how to play with them. He ends up, I think he's caused the penalty, basically, that we get at Sunday to kind of seal the game. And I think he should have scored a goal in the second half, but that was maybe where his lack of fitness was shown. But I think he can come onto a real game domestically. I think you'll probably see him starting on Sunday. And you could end up seeing him and Diallo being the kind of guys that win the Scottish Cup for us even, you know, by the end of the season. But no, I don't think he doesn't deserve a start tomorrow night, and I wouldn't want him to, because I don't think he's ready. I think we're going to have to be out there and hit the ground running, you know, just to keep up with whatever Red Star are doing in their initial trying to blow us away. But we're getting more options, and I feel we've got a real there's a kind of grit about us now, a grit about our squad. We're kind of first 15, you know, so to speak, Ross, that I'm really enjoying, and Sands is a big part of that as well. You know, he's starting to look really good, you know. So I'm confident about that. But no, I just go with the same starting 11 as last Thursday.
I'm on the same page as you. It's a starting 11 that caused them no end of problems. That, despite the 3 disallowed goals and a penalty save, they didn't actually give anything up. You know, they didn't give anything up. So, I'm fully in agreement with yourself, and it's the team that I have faith in to go and get it done. But as I said earlier, I have faith in that there's options, that it's malleable, it can change, and Gio has plans. Alec, before we wrap up, we mentioned a moment ago we're getting to the stage where if we win this game, we're through to a stage of the competition that has the word final in it, where we are 2 ties away from the final of a European competition. It's considering where we were 4 or 5 years ago against Progress Niederkorn, it is remarkable, and it's incredible. I don't think many of us expected this when we got drawn against Borussia Dortmund earlier in the season. I don't think many of us expected this when they saw our indifferent form in the group stages of this competition. But we seem to have hit form at the right time, I suppose, growing in a crescendo towards the end of the contest. At what point? I think we've all been very good, and we've all been very restrained and diplomatic, and gone, no, it's one tie at a time. We're now 3-0 up at half-time in this one. And I think we can allow ourselves to think about the quarterfinals, because, you know, they need to score 3 to take it to extra time. At what point do we start to allow ourselves to wonder and to have a bit of hope and a bit of expectation, a bit of belief? Are we getting to the stage of thinking about hotels and flights to Spain?
I think we start thinking about that maybe 5 or 6 seconds after the referee blows his final whistle in the second leg of the semi-final.
Right.
And we have won, and we still wait for protests coming from the east of Glasgow, you know, over how we got to that final, and make sure there's no kind of retrospective ban coming in. So probably I won't really believe it until we're coming down that the tunnel in Seville for the final in May, that we're actually in it, mate. No, listen, I feel this is enough. Tomorrow, we've got to focus on tomorrow night, not just because we have to be cautious. We have to be, we have to make sure we're fully focused in this game, or else we don't get anywhere. To not go through the quarterfinal now, the unfortunate thing for Rangers is it would be a humiliation. Now, I remember when we were playing, I said this before to Colin, I think, I remember when we lost to Progress Niederkorn, arguably the most humiliating result of my life as a Rangers supporter. The following season, when we got Scoopy, from Macedonia, I was like, all right, I'm same part of the world. I'm like, oh, Macedonia, part of the former Yugoslavia, good kind of level. That's not as much of a slagging as getting beat by a team from Luxembourg. That's how negative I was feeling. It was like, I want to get so, and that went right up. That continued right up till I remember us being 2-0 down to Braga at Ibrox in the last 32, and thinking, these are good. This is a class team. That's 2 class goals they've scored. They lost the Europa League final in 2011. They've got a reputation. This is no disgrace. I'm quite happy for us to go out. I'm quite happy that we go out to a team of this quality. Just don't want us to get tanked. Beat them home and away. Unbelievable. And it's been such a journey, Ross. Colin said a thing last week, and we're immediate post-match pod. We bumped into David Fraser as well outside Ibrox after the first game. And I hadn't even thought about it. It's 18 years since Celtic were in a quarter final of a European competition. 14 years for us, and Colin said we've been down to the bottom division of Scottish football, and back the idea that we're going to be in another quarter final before, and that's up there with the whole kind of meme that was going about in 2016 about the Schmeichels, about Schmeichel Senior and Schmeichel Junior having won league titles before Liverpool, had won one. It's kind of anti-Liverpool meme from Man U fans. It's to me, it's not just about being cautious and not getting ahead of ourselves, because if we did lose tomorrow, if we did go out, it would need to be by way of a disaster. It would need to be a catastrophe, and it would be embarrassing, and that would be unfair. To look at Rangers running Europe the last 4 years that way. It's about making sure we enjoy this. It's about, I want everyone to savour this. I know we're already thinking, but we get to get Barcelona in the quarters or whatever. No, this is absolutely magical. What we're going to potentially do tomorrow night. This is a final in and of itself. Rangers in Europe, especially the last couple of games, it's become a phenomenon, certainly a Britain-wide phenomenon. This whole bat cam, spider cam, bat think cam, whatever it is, they've got across the underside of the roof. And the club deck, that's become a bit of a meme. That's been going on about Twitter and what have you. But it's a beautiful thing. And
it's magic, isn't it?
You're getting YouTubers and what have you from all around the world. I know it's a kind of common thing these days. Oh man, what an atmosphere! But they mean it. It is blowing people away. Oh, yeah. And we're all worried. We're all worried about what's going to happen if we don't win the league this season. That means we don't go straight into the Champions League. Well, we can still get into the Champions League if we finish second. We can still get through a qualifying round. And Rangers continue to operate at this level in Europe that we have for the last few seasons. That improves our ability to get through qualifying rounds of the Champions League, but also the money we are slowly making, and the gravitas that it's given us throughout Europe. The publicity of these games is going to bring players in that we maybe wouldn't normally have got, and it'll kind of compensate just in the off chance that we don't win the league. I think tomorrow night is the night that we win tomorrow night. Looking back at what Colin said last week, that really got to me. It was really emotional. Celtic have only made the last 16 of Europe 3 times, since 2004. That was, I think, Villarreal put them at the quarterfinals in 2004, UEFA Cup. We've done that in the last 3 years. We've equalled that in the last 3 years, and it's through Europe that we've re-established ourselves. When Celtic went out to Copenhagen and we beat Braga 2 seasons ago, that was the first time any team in Scotland had gone further than Celtic in any major competition since we beat them in the Scottish Cup semi-finals in 2016, and that had a bad end to it, And we've done it again last season. We've done it again this season, and it sounds parochial, and it sounds like I'm thinking about Celtic and that kind of. As long as we beat them, it's not. They were setting the standard. They were the target we had to get above, and this is how we've done it. And the memories we've had so far, Porto, Feyenoord, Benfica last night, the guy who equalised in injury time last season against us to save a point for Benfica in Lisbon against us. Last night put out Ajax to put them into the quarterfinals of the Champions League.
Yeah.
Villarreal won last season. They're the Europa League holders. They're playing Juventus tonight for the chance to get into the quarterfinals of the Champions League. We beat them in away goals, basically. Mm-hmm. And with 10 men at Ibrox. It's been a fantastic journey. And I'm sorry, I'm hardly even taking a breath here, Ross, because it means so much to me. I know I'm going on too much. But
not at all. I
think what we've got to look at is that I feel I should maybe talk about this, after if we do it tomorrow night. I'm still going to say if, just to be cautious. But looking through history of European football, and I'm a bit anal when it comes to the European trophy winners. I'm better at remembering them than Cadizzi's grounds name. But it's when a Scottish team has got to a European final, it's always come after a period of, it's either the greatest period in their history, or it's come after a real lull. When Celtic won the European Cup in '67, it's put as like, suddenly 10 Scottish guys out of nowhere, the first time in the European Cup, they won it. They'd been in the semi-finals of the Cup Winners' Cup the season before, and in the semi-finals of the Cup Winners' Cup the season before that. Sorry, 2 seasons before that. And by the way, they were 3-0 up in the first leg and get beat 4-0 in the second leg. But it was that had segued with them having won one league title in almost 30 years. It's probably the most uninspiring period in Celtic's history. They were finishing 11th and 12th in the league and all that. It was Rangers and Hibs, Rangers and Hearts, Rangers and Dundee and Kilmarnock that were sharing the league dominance at that time. Celtic, bang, arrive back, they get to a level and they go all the way and they win the European Cup. Dundee United, they were practically East Stirlingshire to Dundee's Falkirk for decades. Their first game in Europe, they beat Barcelona home and away, amazing. But Jim McLean, they were a couple of quarterfinals of the UEFA Cup, then the semi-finals of the European Cup in successive seasons under McLean, and then in '87 they go and they get to a European final. Aberdeen, had won every major trophy once in Scotland, and then they get that period under Ferguson where they beat Ipswich Town, who were the holders of the UEFA Cup the following season, and then the season later they're winning the Cup Winners' Cup. Where they're winning these league titles. Rangers have been down to that bottom tier. Even when we won the European Cup Winners' Cup in '72, we'd been to the semi-finals of the Fairs Cup in '69. And that's a lot of the '72 Barcelona Bears were still there when we got to the quarterfinals of the European Cup in '78, '79. I feel as if there's something magical happening at Ibrox. There's something magical happening, and it's powered by how low we went. And there's a kind of esprit de corps that we haven't seen since our Champions League run of '92, '93, because the Champions League was a new thing. And I think what we've got now is a consistency as well as an awareness of what we have to do. And it's becoming a feeling of, just we can do anything we want. I'm going to save it till tomorrow night. If we do this tomorrow night, I don't just think we can get to the final. I think we can win the Europa League. It's only been nine times a Scottish team's got to a European final. We were the first ones to do it. We're the last ones to do it. And if we did it again this season, we'd have done half of Scotland's European finals. I don't want to get ahead of myself. I think tomorrow night is a massive achievement in itself, and it would also mean we can go on and do something magical for the ages.
Mm-hmm. It's funny, you started that by saying, I won't believe it until 5 minutes after the full-time whistle in semi-final. Now you're going, but after tomorrow, I think we'll win it.
And then just go straight into the Champions League. And if we win that 6 times in a row, beat Real Madrid's record, I'll be happy, Ross.
They'll be happy. They'll be happy. It's it's a bit of a shame because you've rattled off so much knowledge of, so-and-so got to the semi-finals of this in 1967, and then they went and did that in 1969. Why did that wee fud have to ask you about the Cadiz Stadium?
He's a great wee guy. That's a friend of the family. That I might have been thinking at the time. It's got nothing to do with it. A lovely wee guy.
Thing is, I bet you can't remember the name of it still.
The Stadio Nuevo Amar.
No, not even close. Right, we'll test him on that next time. But I think it's about time for us to wrap up. A massive thank you to Alec, as always, for joining us this evening and giving us the benefit of his wisdom. And a big thanks to everyone who's joined us on the YouTube stream live tonight. Lots of activity in the chat, which is, as always, very, very much appreciated. So thank you for giving up your evening to be with us. Rangers, of course, are taking on Red Star Belgrade or Crvena Zvezda tomorrow night in Belgrade. 5:45. It's the earlier kickoff. You can catch that on BT Sport or on Rangers TV. Fingers crossed for a good result, and we'll be discussing on Sunday who we will be facing in the quarter-finals of the Europa League. I still can't quite believe that those words are coming out of my mouth. It's been a phenomenal journey this season in Europe. Let's hope that we've got at least a couple more games in us. So please do join us on Sunday. That'll be 9:30 p.m. on the Gersnet YouTube channel. If you can't join us live, then the show is always available for download on a Monday morning. That's from Acast, iTunes, YouTube, Castbox, Stitcher, or Spotify. Essentially, wherever you get your podcast from, give us a wee like and a subscribe. You'll never miss a thing. Enjoy the game tomorrow night. And please do join us again on Sunday. Goodbye for now.